Good morning guys, welcome back. We are working today on a 2004 XC90 and one of the more common engine problems you're going to see, the mass airflow sensor or airflow mass sensor is on the fritz, operating out of range. So I'm just going to check inside the airbox here, see if that's blocked, which it might well be. See, there's plenty of leaves around, so that's number one suspect. If that's not the case, I do have a replacement one on standby. So let me just park you here and we'll see what happens. Now I will take this thing into the office in a bit, and I'll show you how you can actually replace just this piece, which is oftentimes a cheaper way of doing it than buying the whole replacement unit. But in this case I've got a really good auto factors here in Belfast, and it was the same price effectively to get a whole unit with replacement plastic. So let's get on with this and see how it goes. Tools for this particular job are super simple. You need a flat bladed screwdriver to deal with the Jubilee clip. Oh, incoming boy racer, so quite restrained today. So just a Jubilee clip on the left hand side, that's super easy. We're also going to need a Torx bit. Forgive me, I've done my homework on this one. I think it's a T20. It is a T20. Sometimes you might find these are the security Torx bits. They're the ones with the hole drilled up the middle of the tool and a pin in the middle of the socket, like this one. I'll just zoom you in there. And you'll notice with this, very unsportingly, in order to be able to prevent you from just changing the sensor, the manufacturer has used not a 6-spline bit, but a 5-spline security bit. It's a very specific tool, but I'll go into that in a bit. More often these days, aftermarkets, particularly like this one, give you a normal 6-splined bit, so you can just change the sensor if you so desire. But you'll note that pin down the middle, that is a security bit as well. Right, we'll come to that in a bit. So I've zoomed you back out again. This is another of these jobs in the engine bay where this little set of tools is incredibly useful. So I'm just going to be using a stubby ratchet, extension bar, connector to put the tool into, and the tool in the end. And that is useful in this instance because we're going to have to reach in from the side. It's really difficult to get into the one at the bottom, particularly, and really do not lose these Torx screws. Keep them in a real safe place. I'm going to put that in my pocket and have my magnetic tray with me today. I forgot that. Okay, so underneath you can see where the end of the tool is there. There is another one. That one's a real pain to get back in, so we'll do that one first. I usually recommend taking out the tricky one first. Oh, just in case no one's ever actually shown you this, by the way, and again, bearing in mind that a lot of folks that watch this channel are complete beginners, the reason you have a knurled section on here is so you don't have to keep on cranking it like that. You can turn the tool itself. Stating the bloody obvious for a lot of people, I know, but if you are not a regular mechanic, a lot of these things that are there to make your life easier may go unnoticed. Okay, right, so a few things we need to do here. One of them, of course, is disconnect the sensor itself. Be really careful when you do it that you don't damage the rubber sleeve that goes around the end there. Notice with this vehicle there should actually be another little rubber gasket around the inside of there, an orange one. Okay, I'll get a replacement for that, but that's going to have to wait. That could be part of the problem. This could be out of range because of bad terminal connectors, a bit of corrosion in there. I'm not seeing corrosion on the sensor connectors, they're fine. Just going to use this screwdriver here just to loosen the grip of the rubber that's been pinned onto the hose in the airbox there. And then we should be able to just pop that out. There's a gasket around the sensor itself. And again, make sure that that stays in place when you take this out. It will be stuck on. You can see the state of this thing, it's been stuck in for a while. there's an O-ring around the lip of the box there. Let me just show you that. So you see this O-ring here, it's quite sticky. Just pushing it back into place where it had kind of crept out. Really important that that stays in place to receive the new one, because this has to be airtight. The way this particular sensor works, by the way, is there's a little heated filament that's cooled by the rate of the air that's flowing past it. So the engine management system is able to determine from that how quickly the air is going past. It knows the cross section of the pipe and can therefore calculate the volume of air that's going into the engine, or the mass of the air, the airflow mass. No surprise, this is called an airflow mass sensor. The other thing to do when you're in these things, by the way, is just have a look in through the hole and make sure that the filter is in a decent state. And this one's pretty much brand new. Changed that not too long ago. So here's the sensor itself. The air flows through this way. There's a grid, a couple of grids actually. You can see here it's caught a piece of grass. That stops any debris going in there. It won't of course stop any dust or grime. But looking at the back of it, the air flows through that hole there. Now in this one, interestingly, it doesn't look like a heated wire, it actually looks like a thermistor, which could mean that the problem here is that that's just greased up. You can get special cleaning spray, it's a bit like carb cleaner, to clean these things out. So I'm going to keep this in reserve, and I'll do an electrical bench test on this just to make sure there's resistance of an appropriate range. I might give this a go in another vehicle if I've got a problem with another one once it's been cleaned up. But for now, I have a new one. I'm going to stick this new one in. So we'll keep that in a safe place. Don't want to drop that. Making sure that the new one is bagged up, which it is, sealed in. And being super careful not to allow any debris or other muck, grime getting into this thing. You notice it's got plastic end caps. We need to just reattach this back in situ. Now you can't get this the wrong way around, because only one side has the flanges and it won't fit at the back. So I mean, though some of them, the old one for instance, does have a airflow this way arrow on it, it is kind of surplus to requirements. So the refitting is about as easy a job as you're going to get, but just make sure when this goes in that that O-ring on the right hand side doesn't deform and get pushed into the air filter. Yeah, that's fighting me. I'm going to go and get a bit of Vaseline just to, or grease rather, not Vaseline, grease to rub around that O-ring just to help this slide in a bit easier. It's always easier with lube. Okay, so what I'm going to use here is the same metal-free permanent lubricant you put on the slide pins on brake calipers. Just going to have to pop this back out. Should have preempted this really. Having seen that it was a bit sticky on the way out, this was pretty much a given. Busy road today. Right, let's keep that safe. And as I say, always easier to slide things in with a big old heap of lube. This won't do any damage to the O-ring. As I say, it's specially designed to go on rubber components in the brake calipers and just stop them binding. One greasy O-ring. Let's see if that slips in a bit easier. Yeah, there you go. Right, so line those back up. Back in with the bottom one of these two little torque screws. Trick actually with these to help you thread them back in. I've just got a bit of masking tape here. Just going to stick that over the end, and that gives just enough resistance to hold the screw in place as you line it up. as before, turning it in by hand and then just using the ratchet to nip in the last little bit. Because of the O-ring there, you don't need to go crazy with torque on this. There you go. Last job, and remembering there should be a little rubber O-ring around the end of this thing, is to reconnect that very carefully, and that's it. One of the easier jobs that you'll ever have to do on an engine management system, electrical warning, but there it is. That is the mass airflow sensor, the airflow mass sensor, sometimes called the MAF sensor, MAF. As I mentioned, I'll just show you in the workshop now how you can extract that, specifically that piece, and change just that if this whole unit itself just works out too expensive. Okay, so here we are just on the bench, and I wanted to show you this detail a little bit more closely. Now those, as you can see, are 5 splined security bits. So you can get individual components, or you can get a little rail of parts. This is a TS bit set. Torque security, important, you get 5-sided ones. But what the manufacturers of these units want to do is sell you a nice cheap to fabricate piece of plastic at great expense. The sensor itself costs about 25 quid. The whole unit together, I've seen them as high as 80 or 90 pounds. So quite expensive, and really all you need to do is pop a screw out of here, pop a screw out of here, and that unit pulls out. Now what they don't want you to know is that this is a common unit across a whole bunch of different models and manufacturers. So you can just change the sensor if you have the right tools. Now the one I just put back in is a standard 6-spline security bit. So hole down the middle, as with these, and a standard Torx bit. But the one I was taking off there, and I won't use that manufacturer again, insist on having the 5-spline bits, which are quite rare. So that inconveniences you, but you can easily get these parts, and then just take those 2 screws out. It pops out, there's a rubber O-ring, new one goes in, straight back in situ. So, little heads up for you there. It is possible to do this on the cheap. You can just replace the sensor, you don't have to get stung for the plastic housing as well. Oh, and the other thing is, it is worth giving it a go with some cleaner to squirt down here and see if the reason that it's out of range is because the actual sensor itself is dirty. There you go, heads up. So there you go guys, hope that's been useful to you. If it has, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Cheers.